In the weekend of 23rd of March 2018, most members of the research team of the crash site of B-24 king size came to Gremmenil, including the son, daughter and son-in-law of the late Peter Ferdinand Sr., who survived the crash. During this unforgettable weekend, hours of video were shot, including drone footage, tours with vehicles and several interviews. Not everything could be used in the documentary The Ghost Plane of La Fosse, created by Joey Van Mason. Therefore, we created several videos of that weekend. This is the first one, the interview with aviation specialist from England David Pratt and crash site researcher from the very start of this project David Martin.
The most significant piece that I found yesterday on the crash site was very special to me and other members of the team, because it's a very personal item. It's here, and to see that coming out of the ground, shining in the sunlight after 73 years, Dave? Yeah, 73 years that's been in the ground. Absolutely incredible. And that's from one of the crew members. And it's a British coin, English coin. It was a shilling in those days in the 40s. It was called a shilling, and now it's modern times it's a 10 pence piece. So it's still got the same value. But the modern coin is much smaller. But this is fantastic, and it's David. When I was busy digging because I was excited and trying to find more coins, one of the other guys. Oh, David, you found a date on it.
Yeah.
So it's actually dated 1942. So
it's a very, very personal piece. Although it's not a big piece, it's a personal piece. It's money from the time. It's got King George VI's head on it, and the fact remains that it, as Dave said, it would have been carried by one of the guys on the aircraft that day. I think the most telling thing is, as you may or may not be able to see, is the fact that it's bent.
Even the coins are bent.
Even the coins are bent, which, in a way, sort of gives us an idea of how horrendous the crash must have been and how impactful it must have been. So, we all know how strong coins are. Coins across the globe are the same, but to bend a coin like that is really quite telling. It's really quite poignant. So it was a hell of a find.
I was very pleased with that.
A great day and a lot of hard work by the whole of the team. From finding something as small as that, because they're the harder pieces to find as opposed to some of the more significant pieces. But again, staying with the personal theme. What was really telling yesterday was to find this, and what we have here, and I'll hold it up for the camera, is this is the front section of a flak vest, which again would have been worn by one of the crew on the aircraft that day. So we had 9 guys on king size on the day of the mission. If I can sort of demonstrate, this would be the front section, and then this would clip to the back section, which would come over your shoulder, and this would clip on the front of it. So again, miraculously, this is a piece of canvas. The interesting thing with this one is it's a British-made flak vest, which would have been supplied to the American aircrew. And some of the viewers may or may not know of a company called Wilkinson Sword, which is today well known for making razor blades. Well, these were made by Wilkinson Sword during the war. And the detail, again, you may or may not be able to see it on camera, but we've still got lines on the vest where the seamstresses, when they were making these up in the factories, would have put the metal bars, because this is basically modern day armour. And then they would have sewed these together. There would have been a piece of sort of cream material behind, like a corduroy material, and then the crew members would have worn this, to give them a degree of protection. The telling thing is, where the guys were digging yesterday, this was found basically in the centre of what was a crash site. So, one of the guys would have been wearing this and probably took it off before they bailed out. So I think we're fairly happy that this was worn by one of the men that probably bailed out of the aircraft. But that's as close as we're going to get to a piece of clothing, that was worn by one of the crew members on the day. And I think we were all
very excited.
We were all
that
pretty, that was a very, very telling, very, very emotional to find that. So in relation to, obviously, as we said, so it was worn by a member of the crew. Whether we could actually tie this to a member of the crew, I think what we've got to do, so we're still sort of cleaning it at this stage, but some of the crew members sometimes named their equipment, so when they were boarding the aircraft, you know, they grabbed their equipment off a hook, or these were normally stored near the aircraft, so because they were heavy, they didn't want to carry them all the way back to the crew sites. So we'll have a really good look. We've got to go through it to see if we can see any names or anything else. If we could do that, that would be amazing. So no, well, this is actually one of the ammunition lockers.
Okay.
So
Great.
this is what the 50 caliber ammunition would have gone in, as you can see there. But again, you know, that would have been a straight piece of metal. It would have been a flash, and again,
Yeah.
you can just see the degree of twist. You know, this is pretty.
Great. I didn't know we'd found that.
Yeah, this is pretty heavy gauge. Well, stainless steel.
Yeah.
You know, and again, you know, people will appreciate you don't just bend stainless steel like that.
No.
So it was very telling to find the pieces, you know, and see the personal items coming out of what was really devastation, you know. And it certainly, I think it brought home probably the testament of you know, Lieutenant Price, the pilot, and Lieutenant O'Rourke, the co-pilot, who were trying to keep the aircraft in the air for as long as they could so that the men could bail out. But you know, that again sort of says it all. You know, that's just devastation. And then this was a really significant piece, because this is a major.
It's got all the rivets on it.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and again, I don't know if the camera can see that, but there's 4 layers of skin there, and they're quite significant. And again, you know, it just shows the twisting, because again, that should be a flat.
Yeah, that's really
piece of
heavy.
metal.
Really
So,
heavy duty.
So yeah. You know, and again, you know, as we went through the day, there were significant finds. As we said, we didn't have massive finds, but the telling thing again was the personal items. And then you found one of these, didn't you?
Yeah.
And the guys brought it across, and this is a piece of it's HB7. It's part of the headset, so that would have sat. That, you know, this would have been worn by some of the crew members. Most significantly by probably one of the survivors, Peter Ferdinand, who was the radio operator gunner. And this is a headset that would have been worn by the crew members, so they'd got communications with the rest of the crew, but more importantly with the other aircraft and back home with the bomb group at Hethel. And again, you know, it's without doubt that on the day, you know, that piece of equipment would have been worn by a crew member.
Definitely,
so,
yeah. That's
you know,
really good find, yeah.
Yeah, and again, you know, small sort of personal items, and again here, this was a really good find in the fact that this is a piece of the Bakelite plastic, and this would have, again, there's a very small detail on it, but it's got part of the wiring diagram, which would have been part of the radio equipment. So at this stage, we're not identified whether it's transmitter or receiver, but again, it would have been some of the equipment that Peter Ferdinand would have used on the aircraft. So for the family that were with us, you know, I can't imagine what they were feeling yesterday to see items that were likely to have been used, stroke worn by their father, stroke father-in-law, and you know, again, it just sort of brings it home.
Yeah. I like the fact that the parts you find with numbers on, and you know, a manufacturer's plates, and it's really cool, you know, to find out it gives it more identification, you know.
It does, and it just sort of adds to the story, and it builds to the story, because you know, it's almost, dare I say, like a little bit of a crime scene. This is evidence, if you like, what we're looking at here. So this is all part of bringing that together and confirming the story and saying, you know, yeah, this is king size. This was an aircraft that took off from Hethel in Norfolk in England, from the 389th Bomb Group. You know, 4-engine bomber with 9 guys that day, and we're getting down to actually identifying individual crew positions and crew members. So really quite telling that.
And that's why I forgot to mention with the coin. Obviously, the American airmen were based in England, so they had to go out and socialise and have some currency. So that's why they had English currency on their possessions.